Hello everyone and welcome to the lecture of Programming in C. This is Dr. Reena Shrestha, working as Associate Professor and Dean in the School of Computer Applications at Babu Banarsidass University. Today in this lecture, I will be talking about the basics of programming, how do we make a program, what is a program, and the basic structure of a C program, and then I will move on to the editor to show you how to make a simple program and how to run it. So let us move on to the presentation to start the topic for today's lecture. Okay, so whenever we do programming, the basic question is what is the requirement of programming and why do we do it? So the answer is we make programs to automate some of the work that has been done manually, or we do it manually and then we want to automate it to increase the efficiency of the work. So let us move on to the first slide. So whenever we make a program, we try to automate a work that is at present being done in a manual mode, or a person is doing it, that work, or it is a semi-automated work. It might be a semi-automated work or a manual work that we want to automate. So basically, a program is a set of instructions written in high-level language in which we try to automate a work that has been done manually. Earlier, that has been done manually. So we make a program for a particular specific task. So what is the requirement here? We know the computer. What is a computer? Computer is an electronic device that takes some input, processes it, and produces some output. So till now, what we were doing was we were using the computer. We were using some of the programs already prepared by some other programmers. We were just using those programs. For example, we used Word. We used Word to prepare some files, to edit it, to format it, and to prepare report. So this is a simple example. You might be using many other programs. This is a simple example. So what we were doing was we were using the program Word. We just gave some input in the form of data. Then we used the functionality of that program in the form of formatting the document, and then the output that we received is the file in the form of report that we were expecting. So till now we were using the program, but now what we will do is we will make program for that processing purpose. So right now our job was to give the input and to get the output. The processing was for the processing, the instructions were given by someone else who made that program. But now our job is to give those set of instructions or to prepare those set of instructions with the help of which a particular task can be done. So the program is a set of instructions that we write to perform a specific task. Okay, so the next statement says here is purpose is to automate a task that is currently accomplished manually or by some other program. So if it has been done manually, then we want to completely automate it. But if some other program is doing that work, then we want to definitely improve the functionality of that program. That's why we are trying to make a new program for it. So we are trying to improve the efficiency or the accuracy of the program that was made earlier. Now, we come across two different terms, program and software. They both are same, but generally when we make small programs, we call it as program. When we make big programs, when we write a big set of instructions, then we call it as software. In software, we follow very rigorous process to make a very correct and efficient program for our purpose. So now whenever we make a software or a program, then what are the steps that we should follow to get an efficient software or a program? For this, we have a very clearly defined guideline in the form of SDLC. This is called Software Development Lifecycle, with the help of which we can develop a software. And in this way, we get very correct and very efficient software that can be used by the users. So the SDLC is the software development lifecycle, which consists of various steps. For example, analysis, design, coding, testing, implementation, and maintenance. This is the simplest SDLC model that we are talking about. We have many other SDLC models, complex models for different type of programs and for different types of environment. So it all depends on the requirement of the user and the assessment of the developer that which model should be used. But these are the basic steps that are present in each of the models in different formats. So let us talk about the various steps. The first step is analysis. In this, we try to analyze the existing system. Whether the existing system is manual or it is semi-automated, we try to analyze the existing system and then we try to gather the requirements of the customer, requirements of the user, that what is the expectation of the user from the new software. So this step is basically to analyze the existing system. This analysis step is to analyze the existing system and to gather the requirements of the user. If this analysis is done in a proper manner, then we definitely get a good software. Because if we gather all the requirements of the user, then we can make software according to those requirements. If we are not able to gather the complete requirement of the user, then the software will lack those functionalities. So after completing this analysis step, the document that we get is software requirement specification. And the software requirement specification contains all the requirements of the customer that we need to code and we need to make the program for it. Now the next step is design step. In this design step, we try to develop the logic that how to fulfill the requirement of the user that we gathered in the previous step. So here also we are not coding it, we are not writing instructions for the program, but now at the design step, we are working on the new software that we are going to make. So in the design step, we are basically developing the logic for the requirements of the user. That how should we write the instructions so that we can fulfill or we can generate the code for all the requirements of the user. Now the third step is coding, and in this step we are now coding or we are writing the instruction in a high level language so that we can make a program. We can make a complete software or we can make a program. So this is the stage where we actually code. Before that, we are doing analysis, which is for the previous system, existing system. After that, we are doing designing. This is for the new system that we are going to make. But still here, we are only developing the logic and we develop a very detailed logic for the new system. So after this step, we get a detailed design document with the help of which we can easily code the software. So in the coded step, we easily code the software with the help of this detailed design and then we test the software. Now what is the purpose of this testing? We test the software that the requirements of the user is fulfilled or not. So we check the functional requirement also and we check that the code is working properly or not. So for that, we generate test cases. By test cases, we mean that we provide some of the inputs and we know that what should be the output of the program. So if by providing those input, we are getting the correct output, then this means that the software is working properly. But if the software is not getting correct output, then the software is not giving proper output, then it is not working properly. So what we do is we test the software for proper output. Now, after testing, if the software is working properly, then what we do is we implement it. Implement it in the environment where we want that software to work. This is the environment basically provided by the customer or at the site of the customer where the software is to be actually executed. After implementation, then maintenance phase starts. Now suppose what is maintenance? It is the requirement generated by the user after this new software is developed. So once we develop the software, we implement it, we install it in the office of the customer, and then if new requirement generates from the customer side or if there is some problem that arises in the existing software, then the maintenance phase starts. And in this phase, we remove all the problems that customer complains, or if the new requirement is generated, then we try to resolve those new requirements from the software. Okay, so this is the basic software development life cycle that we follow while making a software or a program. So these are the basic steps that should be followed to make a correct and efficient software. So for example, we want to make a ERP for a university, then what we need to do is we need to analyze that what should be the functionality of this ERP. So for making a ERP, what we will do is we will first analyze that in our university, we have different departments like accounts, academics, admission, HR, and so on. If we talk about academics department, then in this, we need to develop the process for registration, for sessional marks, for exams, and so on. So in this way, we try to analyze the complete system. We talk with the customer. We try to gather the requirements that they have, and then we start developing the system. Now, this is the structure of a basic C program that we will make, and we will use this throughout the course of programming in C. So what this structure says is, in the starting, we have preprocessor directives. So preprocessor directives are basically preprocessor commands that are for preprocessor. Preprocessor is a program that processes our C program before it is passed to the compiler. Compiler, we pass a program to the compiler. What is the reason for it? The compiler converts the program from high level language to a low level language, that is the machine language, because the computer cannot understand the high level language. So for actual execution of the program, it needs to be converted to machine code. So this is the job of compiler, to convert a program written in high level language to a lower level language. So before that program is passed to the compiler, it is passed to a preprocessor for processing some of the commands. So preprocessor directives gives the command to the preprocessor that how the file should be prepared to be passed to the compiler. All the preprocessor directives start with a hash symbol, and I've used here a simple example of include preprocessor directive. This is used to include the already defined header files, or we can make some files and then we can include it here. So if we are including a system defined file, then we will use angular bracket, and if we include our own file, then we will use double quotes. So with the help of include preprocessor directive, we can include multiple files. So for starting C programming, we simply need to understand right now the include preprocessor directive, and we will study all the other directives in detail later on. So after this preprocessor directives, we have global declarations. So all the variables that is required for the complete program, all the functions made in the program are declared here. These are globally declared variables. These variables are visible to all the functions that we will define later. Now, after these global declarations, we will have the main function. The execution of the program starts with the main function. So in every program, we have only one main function, and the execution of the program will start with that main function. So how do we write a function? For writing a function, the header statement says that first we need to show here the write the return type of the function, and then the name of the function, and then the list of arguments that the function expects. So return type, and first function that we will use is the main function. So we have written the name of the function as main, and then the list of arguments. And to indicate the set of instructions associated with this function, we create a block here. A block is created with the help of an opening bracket and a closing bracket. In the block of a particular function, we have local declarations and then the instructions. The variables declared here locally for this function are visible only in this function and cannot be used from anywhere outside the function. So these are basically local declarations or local variables associated with this function. And then this block of code indicates the set of instructions for this particular function. This basically accomplishes the task for which we have made this function. So in a single C program, right now the structure that we are seeing is for a single file of a C program. We can have multiple files in a C program. So in a C program, what we will do is we can have multiple functions. I've written here as an example, I've written just two functions, main function and then function one. And in function one also, I've specified the return type, name of the function, and then list of arguments. Again, in this function also, we can have local declarations and then block of code. Block of code indicates the instruction for the task that we defined for function one. Okay. So right now, to start with, as we don't know the detailed concept of functions, so we will not make other functions, but we will simply make a simple function main, and then we will code the program. And then as soon as we study the concept of function, we will use the functions and then we will code the program. So this is a simple program shown here, in which I have included two header files, stdio.h and conio.h, and then I have declared the main function. I have specified the type, return type here as void, indicating that this function does not return a value. Void type indicates that this function does not return any value. And the bracket here is blank, indicating that right now main function is not expecting any argument. So there is no need to pass any argument to this main function. And then we have the first function here, CLR-SCR. This function CLR-SCR is defined in the file conio.h. That's why we have used this file here. We have included this file here. And then we have the second function printf, which is declared in the file stdio.h. That's why we have included this file here. And with the help of printf statement, we can print a statement or the output on the screen. So the argument that it expects is a format string, and then we can pass variables also if we want to print the value of certain variables. Right now we are printing a constant message, welcome to the world of C. That's why I have passed just the format string in double quote. A string is a sequence of characters enclosed in double quote. So I have passed it like this here. Now these header files, or all the header files that we have in C, basically contains the predefined functions. Basically they contain the prototypes of the predefined functions, and then the detailed code for those functions is defined in library files. So when we include these files here, we can use all the functions defined or declared in these header files. Without including these header files, we cannot use the functions. So these are predefined functions already defined in C, and we have many such functions that we can directly use in our program. So now let us see what are the different types of file that we can have while programming. So the first type of file that we have is the source file that we discussed right now. This is the structure of the source file, and we will make this file with the extension .c. In this file, we have the high-level language code written in C language for the task to accomplish. Now the second file that we have is the header file. We have this file with the extension .h. It contains prototype of the inbuilt functions. So we will discuss in detail what is prototype, what is header, what is all the detail of the functions when we will study the topic functions. So right now you need to understand that we have certain functions and we can use those functions by including the header files in which the prototype of the function is declared. So these are some of the examples of the header files: stdio.h, conio.h, math.h, in which the functions related to math is there. Mathematical functions are there. Allocd.h to allocate or deallocate memory at runtime. Now, whenever the program source file is passed to the compiler, it produces object file. And these object files are produced with extension .o or .obj. And now when these files are combined, we will see the process, complete compilation and execution process. When these files are combined, the linker makes a executable file. This executable file is required for execution. So basically this executable file is with extension .exe, and the linker links various object files to produce executable files. So the compiler produces object file and the linker links all these object files to produce executable file. Now let us see the compilation and execution process, the complete process of compilation and execution. So as I said that we can have multiple source file in a single C program. So here the example shows that this is the first source file. These are the header files included in this source file. This is the second source file, and these are the header files included in the second source file. So we can have multiple source files like this. In this example, I have shown just two source files and the header files associated with or included with these source files. So this source file and the corresponding header files are passed to the preprocessor. Preprocessor processes this source file and the header files and produces a expandable code, expanded code, which is passed to compiler. Now this compiler converts this processed code to object code. This object file and the library files corresponding to all these functions, and again the object file that is produced by this sequence, all these object files are passed to the linker, and now this linker links these object files to produce executable file. And now this executable file can execute and perform the task for which we have made this program. Okay. Now, whenever we are making a program, we are compiling it, we are executing it, we can get certain type of errors if we do not follow the proper syntax or we do not develop a proper logic. So we can have different types of error, for example, runtime error, compile time error, linker error, and logical error. So the first type of error that we get is compile time error. This is generally we get such type of errors if we do not follow the proper syntax of the statements that is defined for C language. So at that particular time, we get compile error. Now, if while after compiling, if we are all the object files are linked with the help of linker, and if the linker is not able to identify some of the object file that is required, or the linker is not able to locate some of the object file, then in that case we get linker error. After this, when we run the program, if the program is through these two steps and then we run the program, at that time, if some error occurs, then that is runtime error. For example, division by 0. It is not a compile time error because the variables, we have declared the variables properly, we have defined all the sequence properly. But suppose while running at particular time, the value of the denominator becomes 0, and then at that particular time, the runtime error will generate. Now, after this, suppose we don't get any such type of error, but still we are not getting the output properly. Then what happened? Then in that case, the logic that we developed to accomplish that task is not correct. It is not proper. And that's why we are getting logical error. Logical error is the error in the logic that we developed at the design phase to accomplish that task. So we have not developed the logic properly. That's why we get logical error. Now, whenever we make a program, sometimes what we require is we require to write certain comments so that whenever later on we visit the program, we can identify that what is the purpose of declaring a variable, what is the purpose of making a function. Because if we see our own program after 6 months or 1 year, it is sometimes difficult to identify that what was the purpose of declaring variable at that particular time. So in such cases, what we do is we generally write a comment in the code. These comments are ignored at the time of compilation. So these are the statements that do not get executed, but these comments are there in the source program, so we can identify that for what purpose we have declared the variable, for what purpose we have made the function, what is the logic behind the function. So we can write comments for our own understanding of the code. So if we want to write a single line comment, then what we do is we use double slash. But if we want to write multiple line comment, we want to write a long comment, then what should be done is we can do it with the help of slash star, and then on the line at which the comment ends, we will use again star and then slash. So to start the multi-line comment, we will use star slash, and to end the multi-line comment, we will use star and then slash. Okay. Now we will move on to the editor to make a simple program and to execute it, to show you that how we can make a program and compile it in C. Okay, so this is a Turbo C compiler that we are using. Here, I will start from the beginning. To make a new program, we will click on the File tab, and then we will click on New. Now a new file is opened here. Now what we will do is we will write the simple code that we discussed while discussing the structure of the C program. So first I need to include the header file, include stdio.h, then hash include conio.h, void main, and then the first function that we had was clr. This function is used to clear off the screen for the previous output that was generated when we are running the programs. And the next function that we have is printf. Okay. And we will use one more function here, getch. This function is basically to get a character input, but generally at the last, we use it as the last statement in a program to hold the screen to see the output. There is a side effect of this function because this function waits for a character. As soon as we see the output, we press a enter, then we move back to the function. So we move back to our program. So at this particular place, we are not trying to get a character as input from the user. We are simply trying to hold the screen to see the output. So for compiling a C, first we will save it. Let us save it with the name test.c. So we will compile it with Alt F9. There is no error. Now we will run it with Control F9, and this is the output. Welcome to the world of C. Now suppose I change some of the function. For example, I change print instead of printf. Now when I compile it, it is giving success, but when I run it, there are some errors, and basically there is a linker error because the linker is not able to locate the object file for this print function, because the object file exists for the printf function in stdio.h, but for print function there is no object file. So the linker is not able to locate the object file for print function. That's why it is giving a linker error. So what I will do is I will again make it as printf. I will save it. Alt F9, Control F9. Now the program is working fine. Okay, so in this way we can make different programs, and then we can execute the programs with the help of Turbo C editor. So today what we discussed is we discussed the basic programming, how programming is done, what is the software development life cycle, how we can develop a software, and what are the steps that we should follow while developing a software. And then we saw the basic structure of a C program, that how should we make a C program. And then we saw the compilation and execution process, the different types of files that we have, how we can write multiple comments in the file. These comments are also called internal documentation. So how we can write comments in the file. Then we saw what are the different type of errors that we get while compiling and executing the program. And then we discussed how to make a simple program and execute it. So let us wind up this lecture with all those topics so you can practice making simple programs on Turbo C Edit. Thanks for watching this video.